The pandemic has resulted in us changing our everyday lives in so many ways, and it looks like another company is set to take advantage of the new normal. This time it's Albertsons Companies, and they have set the terms for their previously announced initial public offering. Today, I'll cover all the details of the IPO as well as my own take on investing in the company. Hi, Kevin here from Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, where we talk about little things that can lead to big improvements in our financial and physical health. Today I'm following up the impromptu video that I made last Thursday on details of the IPO for Albertsons Companies. Just wanted to say if you're back after watching that one with the quality being a little subpar, you're awesome. I wanted to get that one out quickly, and I'm sorry to say it showed. Losing some lighting halfway in was not optimal. Now in that video, I provided some initial thoughts on investing in a grocery company in these times. Today, I'll provide a more detailed look at what factors we should keep in mind when considering investing in the company, as well as covering everything we know about the IPO itself. And if you'd like to hear the company numbers and background, hang in there till the end as I have them for you as well. But before we get into it, I want to thank my subscribers for sticking with me. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love to have you join the community by subscribing. We've spent a lot of time talking about investing in stocks directly related to the pandemic, with most of the focus being on companies working on developing a vaccine. If videos like these are what you're interested in, please hit that like button so I know to keep making what you want to see. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my dad on Father's Day, who I've learned so much from over the years. And the one thing he told me is he'd like to see me not standing in front of a plain wall. I don't know if this is much better, but Dad, this is for you. Alright, in one sense you think, what do grocery stores have to do with pandemic investing? And then you remember how important they were when all the restaurants closed down. And then as an investor, when you hear the letters IPO, your ears perk up a little. I know when I heard Albertsons Companies set the terms on its initial public offering last week, it got my attention. And I'm not one that thinks about investing in grocery stores. And that's for a lot of reasons. Primarily one being that there is a lot of competition, and two, the margins are historically low. Now about the margins, I remember the owner of a grocery store I worked at in high school shared with me how low the margins were at that time. But seeing that was going on 30 years ago, I guess I should consider things might have changed. Before I go on, I want to say that I'm just giving my personal thoughts. I'm not a financial advisor giving you any advice to act on. You should always do your own homework or consult your own financial advisor before taking any action. So I feel one of the most important things is how grocery stores have worked to offer much improved margins on certain services. Selling cooked foods and baked items have been one of those niche areas that grocery stores have been exploiting for some time now. Stores have also been catering to specialty products such as organic foods and dedicated areas such as espresso bars that also offer much higher margins than your typical purchases of milk, bread, and eggs. Newer ways of increasing margins include technological innovations such as self-checkouts and checking out with apps, things that reduce costs and improve the overall customer experience. Some stores are now using gas discount programs and digital coupons through their apps, which help to build brand loyalty, which then ultimately helps to protect the store against all of the competition out there. Curbside pickup is another area that had been slowly ramping up, but which exploded during the height of the pandemic. And when you add ready-to-eat meals with curbside pickup, it's very similar to takeout windows or drive-thrus, so they've effectively entered the fast food market. What grocery stores have seen is that if you enhance the customer experience, people are willing to pay for it. Of course, having the right mix of stores in the right locations is super important. Currently, Albertsons stores are located primarily in the west and northeast of the US, which offers some potential areas for future growth into new markets in central and southeast regions of the country. On the other hand, Albertsons stated that the same unprecedented conditions that have resulted in such a spike in business also have brought forth significant challenges, particularly on the expense side, with the cost of safety equipment like the plexiglass shields, enhanced cleaning costs, providing employees with face masks, and temporarily paying its workers higher wages. So there has been a cost from the pandemic as well, not just the surging sales and foot traffic that we've all heard about and experienced. And then, of course, is what everyone calls the new normal, which asks us to consider, how have people's daily lives changed since the pandemic, and will those changes be long-term? Well, one thing that definitely changed was people's eating habits, transitioning from dining out to eating in. Now obviously that was involuntary as it was imposed on people through government lockdowns. The big question is, will people go right back to the old way of life now that everything is reopening? I do think that of all the everyday things we do, eating out may be the one area that is slower to come back. While you can go shopping or to the museum with a mask on, it's pretty hard to eat with one on. Now, there are lots of examples out there of people going out and not following guidelines on social distancing and wearing masks, but what you have to think is what percentage of people, and these might be the older people or people with underlying health conditions, that will either not eat out or significantly reduce how often they will. I think it's fair to say that the population is getting older and less healthy, and so I believe there will be a reduction in eating out, if only for the short term. Whether that fear goes away from people just getting used to living with the threat or when a vaccine is developed. But I do wonder how many people will have actually changed their long-term habits when it comes to eating out. As people have gotten used to eating home more often, will this become more routine? As grocery stores have done more of the work for you, meaning they can pick out your food or cook your meals and then bring it right to your car, how much more often will people do that versus dining out? And what about the economic fallout where almost every economist is saying that unemployment, while it will get better, job recovery will be slow and the unemployment rate will be high for some time? Now, the unemployed may not be using the higher margin services that grocery stores offer, but they still will need to eat, and food options at the grocery store are going to be cheaper to buy, and that will be crucial if incomes are down on a meaningful scale. So when you start to think about the grocery stores, you can see that business, while up in the pandemic, could continue to stay at higher levels. After considering a lot of these factors, I feel I'm now personally more open to investing in grocery store companies. Besides, Warren Buffett always says, invest in what you know. And while we don't all understand the science behind potential vaccines, such as Moderna's messenger RNA technology, to some degree we all know about grocery stores. And that brings us back to Albertsons and their IPO. Grocery stores are still somewhat regional, so the name of Albertsons may not be familiar to you. But make no mistake, they are a fairly large company and have a portfolio of stores under different brand names. In fact, now over 20 names. Albertsons is one name. The other name you may be more familiar with is Safeway. Other store names they run that you may be familiar with are Shaw's, Vons, Jewel Osco, Acme, Pavilions, and United Supermarkets. Albertsons Companies has been based in Idaho since 1939, and while once a public company, has most recently been owned by private equity firms. Right now the company operates over 2,200 stores. Albertsons also runs a meal kit company named Plated, which offers another higher margin product. Another service that, while already was growing, was only to be helped even more with the pandemic. On a SEC filing last Thursday, which prompted my last video, Albertsons set the terms of their IPO looking to sell 65.8 million shares in a range between $18 and $20 per share, and the stock will trade under the symbol ACI. This came after news of Kroger's beating Wall Street estimates of sales and profitability, which should only help the image of investing in a grocery company in 2020. The offering will raise approximately $1.2 billion and will command an approximate market value of $9 billion. If you're wondering, this isn't the first time the company planned on an IPO, as previously 2 other IPOs were planned. The most well-known attempt came before an impending merger with Rite Aid, which canceled the IPO. Ultimately, the merger never happened. And then a lesser-known attempt occurred 5 years ago, but due to rough market conditions, the IPO is nixed. The current plan on offering an IPO was made public in a filing on March 6, 2020. Some book numbers from the company show sales of $62.5 billion with a gross margin of 28% and an operating margin of 2.3% for the 12 months ended February 29, 2020, right before the effects of the lockdowns occurred. Total revenue was up almost $2 billion or 3.3% over the previous year. In the same time period, adjusted cash flow came in at $1.4 billion. More recently, reports of sales have surged by over 40% in March and over 20% for both April and May. So when will trading commence? The Wall Street Journal reports trading could begin at the end of this coming week. Other reports seem to confirm this. Proceeds of the IPO will be used primarily to pay back the private equity firm for the investment in the company. In the SEC filing, the company will establish a dividend of 2.5%, assuming a $19 share price. When the date is confirmed for actual trading or any other important information related to the IPO is released, I'll put up another video. So again, if you don't want to miss it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll have that information as soon as it's released. So what are your thoughts on Albertsons? Please let us know in the comments. And again, if you enjoy videos on topics like these, please hit that like button so I know to keep making them. As always, I hope that we can all learn from each other on how to take little easy steps in making big improvements in our lives. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, have a great day.